Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, the election's 2 days away, and it's going to come down to turnout, not persuasion. I encourage everybody to get out and vote. I encourage everybody to take as many people with them as possible when they're going to vote and find people on the fence. Maybe they're iffy. Maybe they don't like either candidate, and you need to convince them to vote for Trump. And this is going to be the closing argument. I felt like it would kind of be an empty election cycle if I did not drop a closing argument video. It's true that you're not going to convince a lot of people, but those apolitical people, you easily could get some of them out to vote if they just understand a little bit more about what's at stake. So that's why I'm making this video. If you have any friends on the fence, send them this video, and hopefully we can maybe convince a couple minds here. So, this is a referendum on two presidencies. You have Donald Trump's presidency and you have Biden and Harris's. And she said that she would not change a single thing compared to what Joe Biden has done. Nothing comes to mind.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
That's a major problem, by the way. And honestly, it's disqualifying given the fact that this administration is the most unpopular administration towards the end of the first term going back to like the 90s. That's a major problem that she's going to have to deal with electorally. But it's also important to remind people that she is no different than Biden. In fact, she's worse than Biden, but we'll get to some of that later. And you may not like Trump's personality, but you're not just voting for Trump. You're also voting for a lot of people that are around Trump. And you've seen what it's like under this administration. It's not just Biden. It's not just Harris. They understand that those people are disposable. They're puppets. And nothing is going to change. We understand that, and we need change right now. Let's look at the economy. It's a top issue for many Americans. Everything costs more now. With Trump, inflation was almost zero. But costs have been up since 21%. Groceries are up big. Gas is $1 more per gallon than it was during the average of the Trump administration. And this is largely due to excess spending past the point of no return and a failed foreign policy due to weak leadership that helped drive up energy costs, which in turn have driven up the cost of everything else. And Biden and Harris claim they've created jobs, but they really haven't. Most of those jobs they created were bounce-back jobs from COVID lockdowns that were imposed by a lot of Democrat governors. And even Donald Trump gained millions of jobs as well in his last few months in office by that logic. The rest of those jobs went to non-citizens and illegal aliens. So no new jobs for native-born Americans. That's a massive problem. Trump oversaw massive jobs growth, and his jobs reports were usually revised up, unlike Biden's, which are almost always revised down. They were caught lying about how many jobs they created, actually. Again, take-home pay was higher under Trump. Mortgage rates were lower under Trump. Personal savings was up. Credit card delinquency was down. And real weekly wages were up 8.2%. They're down 3.9%. We need change right now. And Trump has a vision to do so, to onshore manufacturing and other jobs and revive the American dream. He's not afraid to use tariffs to do it like they are. You know, Democrats are talking about this national sales tax when in reality, for Trump, tariffs are largely a negotiation tool and they work. It's the art of the deal. Trump put them on before. He had no inflation. Even Biden's administration had to keep some of them in place. We already ran our country before with only tariffs, without the income tax. And maybe one day we can get rid of the income tax. Just maybe. Countries like Japan, Germany, and many other nations use them. They have a robust manufacturing sector at a time when we've lost so much to China and Mexico. When's the last time you saw a Chevrolet in Tokyo or a Ford in Berlin? Trump is hammering this message home, and it's made him a uniquely strong candidate. And in 2016, it helped him flip back states that Republicans have not won in decades. Trump also will be lowering corporate taxes for companies that buy and hire American and make their products here. This is a great incentive to help onshore jobs and revive the American dream. Trump also cut taxes for the middle class and small businesses, and those cuts expire in 2025. Harris does not want to extend them, and instead wants to raise them on certain income groups. While Democrats say Trump only supports quote-unquote tax cuts for the rich, his tax plan helped the lower income brackets the most, increasing net worth and wages in the bottom income brackets at a much higher rate than those at the top. It also closed loopholes which actually increased revenue. And again, if Trump's tax cuts truly benefited the wealthy, why do all these mega donors and big banks support Kamala Harris? Of course, people might point to somebody like Elon Musk supporting Trump as a counterexample, but if tax cuts were really why he was on board with Trump, why wouldn't he backed him in 2020? He didn't. He backed Joe Biden. Trump also supports no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security for seniors, no taxes on overtime, tax deductions on car loans, capped credit card interest, and tax credits to families that are taking care of loved ones. He also cut regulations substantially, allowing small businesses to grow and thrive. Many of those were put back on by the current administration, and many people aren't happy about it. The stock market also went from 18,000 on Dow when Trump won to 30,000 when he left office, a near doubling of it despite the pandemic. It's true Dow rose under Biden, but it's rose at a far slower rate, and adjusting for inflation, it hasn't risen much at all. People can point to Trump's big spending during his tenure as a reason for why he won't slow things down like inflation, or why his second term will still have some issues, but keep in mind, he's got an entirely different team around him now. The smartest man in the world, Elon Musk, will be put in charge of the debt problem and government efficiency. And given how he got rid of a lot of the waste and improved Twitter, I have no reason to believe that he won't at least make some progress helping find ways to cut waste. Also, Biden has spent more money than Trump by far, even though we're out of a pandemic right now. And much of that spending was on the back of the tie-breaking vote of Kamala Harris in the Senate. Let's talk about foreign policy. Trump's the first president to never start a new war in 70 years. He ended wars instead. He's not owned by the neocons or the military-industrial complex. His presence on the world stage made things safer when many expected the opposite would happen if he were to become president. Russia was at bay, China was at bay, and the Middle East was approaching the brink of peace. Biden and Harris botched the Afghanistan withdrawal by not sticking to Trump's plan, killing many soldiers in the process. Conflicts abroad have risen, and they've sucked up our taxpayer dollars. We need to end the conflicts and prevent World War III, and we need strong leadership to do it. Some people might think Trump is too brash or too bold, but that's the leadership we need on the world stage to keep our country safe. Speaking of safety, we also had a very secure border under Trump due to his policies. It was not perfect, but he built 500 miles of new and replacement wall and saw a record low border crossings due to his policies like Remain in Mexico and the tariff threats that ensued. Harris and Biden blew the border wide open by inciting an insurrection due to their careless rhetoric and then terminated plenty of Trump-era executive orders. Since then, we've had roughly 10 million illegal aliens that we know of crossing our border. Many of them are criminals. Harris is running on giving them amnesty, drowning out the voices of Americans while claiming that Donald Trump is the real threat to democracy. This will also hurt the wages of Americans even more, particularly working class Americans and union workers, and that's partially why Democrat support among private sector unions like the Teamsters are slipping. Democrats are trying to gaslight the American public by claiming that the border crisis was caused by a border bill failing to pass the Senate, when in reality, the border crisis is what sparked the desire for such a bill in the first place. And they claim that Donald Trump shot it down so he could run on the issue, but in reality, it was an awful bill. It was hardly bipartisan. Its security measures wouldn't even go into effect until after 2 million illegal aliens would cross the border every year. It codified catch and release while pretending to end it just because they use different terminology. And worst of all, they were supporting handing out free work permits and fast-tracking amnesty to those who have crossed illegally under this administration when they should be deported instead. All of this in exchange for a few extra judges to process the backlog and a couple of security drones that probably would take years before they actually show up on the border, given how inefficient this government is. Biden himself since implemented a lot of the policies in that bill via executive order, and it hasn't done much. And it's very possible that we're going to see another surge to the border if Harris wins again. Even 12 Democrats opposed that bill. Only 4 Republicans supported it: Romney, Collins, Murkowski, and Open Borders' James Langford. Besides an actual border bill, H.R. 2 was actually tough, effective, passed overwhelmingly by the Republican House, and Chuck Schumer never brought it up to a vote. That's where the politics was played, not with Trump. But either way, you don't need a bill to fix the problem. They broke it. Donald Trump will fix it. He did it before. He can do it again. And now he has the public mandate to do it even better. Not to mention how they're dumping tens of thousands of migrants into small Rust Belt towns like Springfield, Ohio, which have overwhelmed them, and then call people who are upset about it names. These people truly hate our country. And we need people in charge like Trump who truly love our country. Many people will talk about abortion. They'll say abortion's a top issue for them. But the truth is the status quo on abortion is not going to change, regardless of who's in power. Roe v. Wade was unconstitutional. States have to set their own laws. Whether you support Roe or not, that's just objective reality. Harris will not be able to codify Roe into law as promised. Trump would never be able to ban it, which he doesn't even support. And again, the votes in Congress aren't there for either side. This election should be decided on national issues, not state issues. And there's not a single swing state where abortion's banned in anyways. And in some states, it's codified into the constitution of those states as well. Trump is also bringing new issues to the table this time. He teamed up with RFK Jr. to make America healthy again. Our country's uniquely unhealthy, even compared to most other Western nations. Seed oils in our foods, chemicals in our foods, ingredients that are banned in many other countries, big pharma corruption. This is partially why we're physically and mentally unwell as a nation. We need to make America healthy again. People claim we had more COVID deaths due to Trump's handling of the pandemic, but in reality, we just have too many pre-existing conditions compared to other Western nations. And states with strict lockdowns saw record deaths as well. Fixing this issue and lowering the chronic disease rate should also lower health insurance costs for Americans in the process, even if it takes some time. Also, while Kamala Harris not only bears the burden of Biden's administration and record, she claims she wouldn't change anything about it, but she also has her own unique record of radicalism. People love talking about 1/6, but the BLM riots of 2020 were far more destructive, damaged far more property, and took far more innocent lives, including those of police officers. Kamala Harris promoted and supported a fund to bail these people out of jail, some of which went on to commit murder. She also cheered on to defund the police movement. She had an atrocious record as district attorney and attorney general. She put away parents for non-consequential crimes like truancy, but let murderers walk free on the street. The fact that somebody can have this as their record makes them either evil or stupid, and I believe she's both. Not to mention she wants taxpayer dollars to go to illegal aliens' health care, as well as gender reassignment surgeries for prisoners. Also, keep this in mind, guys. America's 250th anniversary, the 2028 Olympics, and the 2026 World Cup will be taking place during the next presidential term. Who better to represent our country? A strong leader who took a bullet to the head, threw his fist up in the air and screamed, "Fight, fight, fight," or someone who is an affront to meritocracy and never earned a single vote for president in their lives? Keep in mind, she wasn't even nominated fairly. They installed her. And she's an all-around weak, incompetent clown who's basically Netflix Joe Biden reboot edition simply because she happens to check some diversity boxes or something. There's no difference between the two. There's no difference at all. It's time for change. It's time to usher in a new American golden age. And the only one capable of doing that is Donald Trump. So get out and vote. Take many people with you. Find people who are open to voting for Trump, but never have voted, so we can set turnout records on Election Day, because that's what it takes to win. We have the math to win. It's up to us. It's on our side. But we show up or we lose our country. It's really that simple. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.